If you're a Giants fan or a baseball fan in general, and you're confused as to why the Giants are one of the worst teams in baseball this year, allow me to shed some light on the current state of this franchise. The Giants are in the beginning stages of what looks likely to be a somewhat long and frustrating rebuild. For years, they've gotten by with having a lackluster farm system, and now it's finally coming back to bite them in the ass. Now, the Giants, they've had a few golden opportunities to go all in on a rebuild for the past few years. And each year, they've elected to rely on trades and trust that players like Posey and Bumgarner will continue to have all-star years. Needless to say, the front office's plans have blown up in their faces. Bumgarner, who was once an ace from 2012 to 2016, has since been riddled with injuries. Posey, who's been the face of the franchise since his rookie year, is now showing signs that he may very well be a shell of who he once was. The Giants had their glory years from 2012 to 2016, while winning 3 World Series championships in 5 years. And now they have to deal with the opposite side of that same coin and stare a dreadful rebuild right in the eyes. I remember the exact moment when I realized that the Giants were in trouble. It was in the 2017 offseason heading into the 2018 season. They traded for Evan Longoria and Andrew McCutchen. At the time, Evan Longoria was still producing at a high clip, and Andrew McCutchen had just come off of a year where he proved that he could still produce. While these trades may have fooled a lot of fans and even some teams in baseball, I honestly saw right through the charade. I saw a team that was desperate to stay relevant in the National League and in the NL and keep up with the Dodgers. And the Dodgers being set up to thrive for the next decade at least factored heavily into the Giants ultimately making their biggest mistake in not starting their rebuild in 2018 instead. While the Giants have been more successful with their championship wins in the past than the Dodgers, their window to win not only closed in 2016, but it locked itself as well. The Giants' front office have refused to acknowledge that the Dodgers were and are set up to win the West for countless years, all the while banking on getting to the postseason through more wild cards like they did in 2014 and 2016. Yes, the Giants had their Moses and Madison Bumgarner, who lighted the way for them in the years of 2014 and 2016 by shutting out the Pirates and the Mets in the wild card games. But it's always a stretch to try and get deep in the postseason by going through the wild card. So, all in all, the Giants, they've shot their shot from half court and they've airballed. The Giants now have to face the facts that they pretty much have to start from the bottom and work their way back up to the top. As we stand today, the Giants have 2 players on the top 100 prospect list in Joey Bart and Helio Ramos. That's a good start, but it's going to take the Giants going all in like the Marlins. Right now, the Giants are the Baltimore Orioles of the National League. And just like the Orioles before their rebuild, they've tried to stave off a true rebuild for as long as possible. Resistance only makes the process longer. I say embrace the rebuild, and the rebuild embraces you back. Case in point, the Houston Astros, who went from losing 100-plus games yearly to drafting first-rounders like Alex Bregman, George Springer, Carlos Correa, and Lance McCullers, and ultimately winning a World Series with all of them. Now, the Astros ended up doing the rebuild arguably better than any team ever has in the past, but the Giants could do it their own way and still be successful. What could help them this year, outside of draft picks, is 1, Evan Longoria turning out a good first half, or a year overall and getting traded to another team and getting good returns back. Madison Bumgarner should get the Giants some good prospects back if he indeed is traded by the deadline. But even with all that, the Giants don't have the luxury of having an Aroldis Chapman or an Andrew Miller, who they can trade and receive top prospects back like Gleyber Torres or Clint Frazier. And if you're wondering about Buster Posey, he's locked up for another 4 more years, including this year, and he's got a full no trade clause. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. Unfortunately for Giant fans, I think management will continue to make trades that won't pan out and dismiss a full-fledged rebuild. They may even try to sign a future free agent to a long-term contract, and that would be the worst possible scenario. I could be wrong, but with a recent successful franchise like the Giants, it's not the easiest thing to swallow your pride and start all over. But the Giants haven't been good recently, and they won't be unless they embrace a new beginning. Management simply has to decide that they're going to start from the ground up and create a new culture of winning with new faces that they've developed themselves. They did it once with guys like Bumgarner, Posey, Crawford, and Panic. It can definitely be done again.